Here we are, another week of Simply Single, and we're glad that you're with us. So look, the question for this week is, does absence make the heart grow fonder? How do you deal with long-distance relationships? Okay, ladies, welcome back to another episode of Simply Single, and you heard the question, does absence make the heart grow fonder? We're talking about long-distance relationships. So let's just start out by seeing if any of you have ever experienced a long-distance relationship.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. Okay, well, give us a little bit, idea of how that particular relationship went for you.
Okay, me. I'm the oldest one. Hey. Yes, I met somebody online from, like church online things. And then we were on the phone every day for hours, and we seemed like we were so great for one another. So much so that we planned to marry in 6 months after that.
Wow.
When we got very close, he came closer to where I was living, or the same town. Then I saw that he was not the right person for me, because when the pressure came, so we dated. We didn't marry, obviously, but we dated after that. But it was just worse and worse until we broke up. But if he hadn't moved to my town and I had just married him, would be a disaster.
Wow. Okay. All right. So that's Ruth's experience.
So you don't think it's a good idea? Okay.
Well, for me, I guess it depends on what you consider to be long distance. Some people never see each other, whereas others live 3 hours away. You just have a life and you're busy, so you see each other on the weekends or when you can, and so on and so forth. And in that situation where you do actually see each other somewhat regularly, but maybe not on an everyday basis like some people who get to date, I just feel like you need to make sure that you're taking your time, because it's not like seeing somebody every day. What may seem like 3 months for you, you only saw each other 4 or 5 times. That's like dating for a week, plus the conversations. And you do tend to have longer conversations, hopefully, if you're compatible. But I just think that if you're going to be in a long distance relationship, some people just need to give it the correct amount of time. I mean, if they say 6 months, and what is it in 6 months? Sometimes in a couple of dates, whether or not this is the person you want to be with. Give it the proper amount of time.
Okay.
Well, I did this long distance relationship where we met when we were in the same town. Then his job moved him to Montgomery, and we continued to date. He would come to Huntsville, I would go to Montgomery, and we made sure we put the same amount of effort into seeing each other and investing in a relationship to get to know each other, whatever. Then his job moved him to Oregon.
Oh.
Okay. All right. That's a long distance relationship. He, time difference and everything. I mean, just totally different. We did try. We tried and it didn't work out. But I believe that it depends on how old you are, because I was a little younger, but I was invested and found out he wasn't as invested as I was. And so you just have to make sure you're on the same page or whatever. Make sure you observe. Investigate. Observe.
Investigate.
Just make sure y'all on the same page. It'll work out.
She said observe. Girl. Also, I'd like to say that I kind of recently was also in a online relationship, and I talked with this great person. I mean, really great professional and all. We seemed like so alike, and then after a month or so, we decided to meet. So I thought it would be better for me to go to his place, because I thought, well, I know about me here. I have to know his environment. And so I went. And I realized that by being there, don't ask me how I found out, but I found out that he had...
Investigate.
Trust me. He had a girlfriend for more than a year while he was online dating other girls, but with that one on the back, just in case. And he would see her like at least once a month. So he was I would not have known if I hadn't gone to his place. So it's very dangerous. I'm not saying it cannot work, but very dangerous. Not good.
And we've talked about the whole internet thing and being catfished, that kind of thing. But well, do you feel that it is easier for women to engage in long distance relationships than guys, or is it kind of equal?
Well, I wanted to weigh in a little bit on that before we answered that question about just the long distance. I think it works better, like in Dominique's case, where you knew the person beforehand and you had some kind of foundation. I think it works a lot better. Sometimes long distance relationships can actually be great in the beginning because you don't have all of that physical in the way, but you've really got to listen hard to stuff and hear exactly what they're saying. And that can be a positive, wherein if you're right there and you're dating every day and you're sort of caught up in all of the whole, fantasy of it, you will miss stuff. Wherein if we're spending hours on the phone, I'm like, that might be something I need to take. No, that didn't sound right. Whatever. So it can be a positive. But I think you need a foundation, I really do, of something, either before you actually commit, they need to move where you are, you need to move. I don't feel like the woman should move where the man is. No, okay? That's just my opinion, my qualified opinion. Okay.
Well, we'll come back to that
okay.
and let you kind of unpack that a little bit more.
Okay.
But I was asking, do you think it's harder or easier for women to be involved in long distance relationships or guys, or is it kind of equal? And before we answer, we're going to take a break. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
1 in 4 households.
40% of all women have never been married. Wait! Don't get weighed down in gloomy facts. Download this new ebook by Patrice Thomas Conwell. Follow her journey to accept and appreciate the single life. Nobody ever told me I might not get married. One woman's journey to acceptance. Available at these retailers and more. Well, thanks for staying with us. And I asked the question before we went to break, whether or not you think it's easier for women to engage in long distance relationships than guys, or is it kind of an equal thing? And I guess I'm asking you to base it on all of your past experiences with long distance relationships. Okay, well, I don't think it's a male or female thing. I think it's a personality thing. I think if you're the type of person who is touchy-feely, it's going to be more difficult for you to be apart from someone than someone who's not used to that, because they're used to just talking or being on the phone or Skyping. I don't Skype. I don't do it, okay? But there are people who really enjoy it, and that's how they keep in contact with their family. And for them, that's a great way for them to communicate. I feel like, I guess this is where that 5 love languages comes into play. You have to know the person that you're with. You have to know whether or not, and if you can't be there to touch them, then how can you touch them without being there? That's difficult to understand. That's why you read so much. I know I do. It's like, I just feel like it's not necessarily, I think everybody varies as far as whether or not they can be in a long distance relationship. You have to have this confidence in you and this confidence in the other person that they're going to be committed, that they're not going to cheat on you, that they're not going to talk about you behind your back, or all these other things that come into play that makes it comfortable for you to be in a long distance relationship with someone. And that's a good point, the personality issue. Because in my long distance relationship between Washington, D.C. and Columbia, Maryland, my now husband, he wasn't a phone person. Now, I was a huge phone person. And I had talked to, I had friendships with men who lived much further away than Columbia, Maryland and D.C. But they like to talk on the phone, so we could spend hours talking on the phone and great conversation. And my husband did not like talking on the phone, even in that kind of a distance. So a good 15, 20 minutes was enough for him. And that used to really irk me because I love talking on the phone. But, you know, so point well taken about it being a real personality thing.
I think also that depends on how serious we are about that relationship, because most of my life, my relationships were over the phone. I just want to have somebody to talk with. I really didn't want to marry no one. You keep them afar. Would be much easier just to give a call and say goodbye. You know. But when I really thought about marrying, then I want to see this person close, because it's one thing over the phone. I can get a whole lot over the phone, but when you see the person in person and see how they treat others and see the daily activities, and it can change. You know. So.
Well, I'm just recently getting out of a long-distance relationship, and I learned a lot about me. And I did not realize that the normal, everyday things like going to the grocery store together, running errands together, to me, that's really what makes me feel like I'm in a relationship. Every time me and this man would get together, it'd be an adventure, it would be fun, you know, dazzling, whatever. But almost like some of the boring, monotonous things of life, having someone there with to you know, decide what brand of peanut butter you're going to get or what movie you're going to watch tonight, just to have that regular mundane
things,
to know the little things about them. So, you know, somebody that knows what I do when I get home and my little routines and everything, and to know that about them. And I really missed out on that. And I've realized, you know, there's really 3 ways to connect with people. One is through conversation, the other is through doing things, and the other is through touching. And when someone's not there, you can't do things together. You can't touch them. And, you know, phone conversations can only go so far and do so much.
Becomes like a fantasy.
I don't know about a fantasy, but it was like there's just something missing, you know.
Because you don't see the real person in the real, like you said, the boring things of life. Because a real life in marriage is not all you meet.
Adventurous and
weekends, you have fun, great, wow, great couple. Or really? Now let's see the bad parts. Well, then it can come another person completely different that you expected.
I think that your love languages aren't matching up to what he's putting out there. And so because you're in a long distance relationship, that's probably, because you were in a long distance relationship, and I think with him, his love languages are different. So for him, he's like, well, I'm good. I don't know what's going on with you, because he's oblivious to what your love languages are. And I think that's why the author made that book, was because a lot of people, he was saying that people were married and I guess got past the 2-year, you know, in love phase, and then, you know, like, well, I don't know what happened, Then you have to really put work into it. Like you have to stop thinking about, okay, well, I'm good. I don't know why they're feeling the way that they're feeling. Well, because you haven't really invested that time into knowing what it is that makes them feel loved. And so for her, physical touch, I'm listening to her. I know physical touch is one. Quality time, because I'm the same way. Like I could just be watching TV. He could be watching football, and I'm in the other room watching Lifetime, but we're in the same, in the same space. So for me, that does something for me. And even if I go and watch football with him and I'm not interested, just being in his presence, being with him, I'm good with that. So quality time, spending time together, you were missing those, elements. And so and that's okay. You don't have to feel like, okay, is something wrong with me? It's nothing wrong with you. He just wasn't fulfilling those love languages.
Well, and I've talked about this with my best friend, because I've got a best friend who we talk 3-4 times a week, discuss all sorts of stuff. And I was telling her, he was in the kitchen the other day making a sandwich and told me this, and we were talking about something else. And as silly as it sounds, I don't know about that sandwich. I don't know if he's making a turkey on wheat with lettuce and tomato. When my son goes in the kitchen and makes a sandwich, I know what he makes. When my best friend Kim goes into a sandwich, I know what, there's little nuances of daily life. And, we've been together 4 months, and I feel like I should know what kind of sandwich the man makes. And there's just, I know that's not deep knowledge stuff, but to me that's part of the familiar and part of a relationship.
Even though the guy that I'm dating, even though we're in the same, space or whatever, but we'll FaceTime each other. Like he'll be at the restaurant, or I'll, be at home. He'll FaceTime me because he knows that is my love language. Like before we even got to this point, we made sure we found out what each other's love languages were.
And let me stop you there, because we keep saying love language, and I'm not sure that our viewers are all familiar with what that is. Just real brief. Love language. What is that? It's a book.
Yes, by Dr. Gary Chapman. And the love language actually is a combination of your personalities, your temperaments, all of that. How you show love and how you want love to be shown. That's really what it is. And it is through those, through your senses. Some people, they have to hear stuff all the time. Some want, the affirmations, thank you. Speaking, some want the feeling, all of the different avenues of expressing love. And we all also have the primary ones and the secondary, because just like what she said, that she does like the presence or whatever, but she also needs touch as well. So you usually have, at least two of them.
Okay, Dom, so you can finish. I just wanted people to really understand what we're talking about, and go get that book if they really want to check it out.
Form is physical touch, acts of service, words of affirmation, quality time, and gifts.
And I have to say that mine are acts of service and gifts.
Something I wanted to go back to, where you had asked about women being a little more, dedicated to the long distance, and they do have it, research that says that women actually are a little more, they can be a little more committed, because of how they think and how they process things, and they can be in that committed relationship. That man can too. It's not that he can't, but it may be harder because most men are very, very visual, and they need you to be visually, not just on a Skype, but there.
Okay, we're going to come right back and let Dr. Renee finish that. So again, don't go away. Okay. Okay, so Dr. Renee, you were saying that research has shown that women might be a little bit more committed because men are visual and actually need to see you there.
And they're visual and they're very tactical. They like to feel your presence and have it right there. And so sometimes, that can be a little harder for long distance. Not saying, of course, as I said before, that it's impossible. It's not. But I really cannot express enough. At some point, as Ruth has said, they need to be physically there. You need to be able, to learn those nuances, to see how those things work. And I do understand, and I have said, it is good. That phone time is very good. You get a lot of things talked about, and questions answered that you may not as much with the person right there, So it can have its good side. But at some point, in that relationship, you need to have some extended time with that person before you decide to make that total commitment to that person.
Okay, so along those lines, okay, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask. So, this relationship I'm getting out of, we're 2.5 hours away from each other. And I feel like if we only see each other once a week, that's a sacrifice. That is not comfortable for me. We have not seen each other in 5 weeks at this moment, which is really what's ending it. And he feels that's an appropriate time. He's been in lots of long-distance relationships before, and this is new to me. What would you recommend as far as like being in people's physical space and present? What's
and let me
important?
piggyback on that, because that's kind of where I was going, is you said earlier that you would not recommend a woman moving to where he is. And so if you get to that point where you need to be in each other's physical presence, then you know why wouldn't you not suggest that the female move to where he is?
She doesn't need to move to where he is to get to know the person, you know, to be in that physical space. No, it can be, I'm trying to be politically correct, okay? It can just actually not be in her best benefit to do that. That man needs to be making that kind of a sacrifice. He needs to have, you know, that level of commitment that it takes. And that's just, you know, that's just the bottom line. With the 2.5 hours, that goes back to, that's not a long time, you know, that should be a level of commitment that I can come there and I can do that. And it doesn't need to be that she always goes, you know. The Bible says, you know, he who finds a woman finds a good thing. So he's the one that needs to go. And we have all kinds of, you know, examples in the Bible where he had to go get the woman, you know, and bring her. She didn't just go, you know. So it's very important that he make that sacrifice of whatever it needs to make. Now, if you all have gotten past that and it's like, well, my job is here, and so, you know, you need to move here, we're getting married, this, that, and the other, you know, but at some point, no, he's going to need to do a lot more.
So how many times, like, so I'm thinking once a week is appropriate for 2.5 hours or more?
Right. Well, if he's 2.5 hours, can I just be blunt? And you have not been together in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
He's not very committed, and I feel like that may not be the relationship you need to be in.
Yeah.
That's just it. You know, because 2.5 hours is not. People drive that far sometimes just to
go to work.
Right.
That's how I feel about it. Yeah.
Right. And if he's accustomed to long distance relationships, I can just absolutely go out on a limb that he is comfortable with that. And there may be far more going on than, you know, just your long distance relationship.
Okay. So Mindy's out there as well now.
She's open.
And I wanted to say to Ruth, are you okay? What's going on? Yes.
No, I'm okay.
Okay.
I really am. Thank you.
Well, let me ask then. There may be some people who are actually in long distance relationships now. How can you make that work? How you know, and even advice from those who have been in them that have not worked exactly the way you thought. What are some things you can share that can help someone who is in a long distance relationship? How can you make it quality?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Is, as you stated, by knowing their love languages and making sure that you meet those needs. That's on both ends, you know, the male and the female side, making sure that you meet. Make sure that you do take that quality time, if it's Skyping or FaceTime or talking on the phone or whatever the case may be. And that you put everything aside. If we say Thursday night from 8 to 10 we're talking, then that's what we're doing. And where you have that level of commitment, where you do develop routines, you know, within that relationship, is that, you know, I know I'm going to get a card from him on every other Tuesday or whatever the case may be, you know, or we have already planned when is the next time, you know, that we are going to meet and what's going to happen and things like that. And that you're putting in that work while you are apart. Talk about some of those issues, and that's a good time to be able to keep those things before God and work on some of those issues that you have while you're not, just in close proximity.
I'd like also add to what you're saying that when we are in a long distance relationship, there is a danger that we can get in a serious or a fast marriage, like I was thinking, because we want to be together, but we're not ready yet to, leave our things, our jobs, or whatever. So we may go too fast into marriage without really knowing the person, because we're so excited over the phone or Skype or whatever, and it seems like we know that person, and then get married and then make a mistake.
One of the most potent prayers that you can ever pray is, Lord, do one or two things. Bring him closer to me or take him far away.
Wow.
And mean that with all of your heart. That's it. That's it. That's it.
He will do it.
He will do it. He will take that person completely. If he is not for me, you remove that completely. And like I say, don't just say it, mean it, because God will answer your prayer, and say, Lord, I just want to be in your perfect will. That's it. And I need to, if I'm moving too fast, you slow it up. If I'm not moving fast enough, every step along the way, and fast and pray like you have never prayed before in your whole life.
Well, I think once again we've talked about an issue that a lot of people may be experiencing. I think that you guys have shared some great insight into, how they do and don't work long distance relationships, and those who may be in them, what they can actually do to make it a quality relationship. But in the end, you have to be in the same space, on some consistent basis, and definitely if you're headed toward possibly marriage, somebody's going to have to move, and according to Dr. Renee, that's him. And before we go, actually, I wanted to thank Ruth for being back with us. Yay! We missed you, and I'm so glad that you were able to come join us again for however long that is. The door is always open for you to be on the couch with us and talking with us, so welcome back. And remember, you can post feedback on our Facebook page, Simply Single, or tweet me at Patty Conwell, and I would be happy to engage you in our conversation. So we look forward to seeing you next week, and I hope that you will be right there at your computer or on your phone or at your TV watching Simply Single. We'll see you.
Baby doll was in the dollhouse, Barbie Ken, how it's supposed to be. But it seems like something's missing from the equation, you and me. Tell me, why am I not having fun in this game we play? Well, if you're tired of trying to fight the fantasy, you need to hear what I have to say. Okay, get your dancing shoes on, we're gonna have some fun today. Hey, single people all over the world say God made me this way. Hey, you don't need nobody else to have some fun today. And just snap your fingers from side to side and say I'm okay.